You ever have that feeling? You look at your team and everyone is just spinning their wheels. I mean, there's a ton of activity, sure, but is there any real progress? Well, today we're going to dive into this really powerful framework for cutting through all that noise and getting your team truly obsessed with what actually matters. So this is the question every single leader has to ask themselves, right? It is so easy to mistake being busy for being effective. Emails are flying, tasks are getting checked off the list, but are you actually moving the needle on the stuff that's critical for success? That's what we're here to figure out. You see, the biggest enemy of focus, it's not laziness, it's noise. Every single day, our teams get bombarded by what's loud. That urgent email, the squeaky wheel client, that immediate fire that just has to be put out right now. And this is exactly where we lose our way. I mean, this quote just absolutely nails it, right? It's just human nature. If you don't have a clear internal compass pointing you in the right direction, you're just going to react to whatever's yelling the loudest in the room. And that drift, even though nobody means for it to happen, can pull an entire team way, way off course. So how do we fight this drift? The thing is, dashboards and KPIs, they're great. They're awesome for tracking progress, but they don't always give you direction. What you really need is a compass for every single person on the team. And that's where this idea of role obsessions comes into play. Okay, so think of it like this. Metrics are your speedometer. They tell you how fast you're going right now. But obsessions are your compass. They tell you which direction you should be heading. One is just data, the other is all about direction. And that is the key distinction. You really need both to get where you're going, but having one without the other, well, that just leads to either aimless speed or just standing still with no momentum. And here it is, the official definition. Now, I want you to notice that phrase, emotional priorities. This is like the psychological secret sauce here. This isn't about some cold number on a spreadsheet. It's about connecting the work to what a person in that role should deeply, truly care about. It taps into that fundamental need for purpose. And that second part, every single day, no matter what is happening, that's the shield. That's what protects you from all those distractions. It's their constant guiding star. So what happens when you get this right? What are the actual benefits? Well, they're immediate and they are powerful. This isn't just some theoretical exercise, believe me. It fundamentally changes how your team operates and makes decisions, literally every single day. With really clear obsessions, your team knows their non-negotiables. They know what they have to protect at all costs. So when 10 different things all feel urgent at the same time, they actually have a framework for making the right trade-off. For instance, if a team's obsession is a flawless client experience, they know that a quick, sloppy fix that compromises quality is just not an option. And this is where it gets tough, for sure, but it's also where it gets incredibly powerful. The obsession forces a conscious, strategic decision, pitting a short-term need against a long-term value, and it gives your team the autonomy to make the right call. Okay, so how do you actually do this? The process is surprisingly simple, really. It's an exercise in getting crystal clear, not in making things more complex. Let's just break it down. All right, the first and honestly most important rule, you have to limit yourself. We're talking 1 to 3 obsessions per role. That's it. Any more than 3, and it all just becomes more noise, which totally defeats the whole purpose. The goal here is radical focus, and that means you have to be disciplined enough to say no. So here's the 3-step process. First, for each role, you ask that really powerful question. Second, you need to think in big themes, not numbers. We're not talking about increased conversion by 5%. No, we're talking about the idea behind that number, the core principle. And then finally, you take that theme and you distill it down into a short, memorable, active statement. So for example, a great theme for an operations role could be operational excellence. See, it's not a metric, it's a guiding principle. It's all about a relentless focus on making things smoother, better, and more reliable for absolutely everyone else in the organization. Or what about this one? Client experience. And notice the little subtext here, how it feels to work with you. This is purely an emotional priority. It's designed to change behavior. It's the difference between just closing a support ticket and taking an extra 2 minutes to make sure the client feels truly heard and valued, even if that slightly lowers your tickets per hour metric for the day. Now let's see how we can turn that theme into an actual statement. This one is just fantastic for an account manager. It's active, it's clear, and it's aspirational. Every single day, the person in this role can ask themselves, Is what I'm doing right now building a long-term relationship, or is it just a short-term transaction? See the difference? And here's another great example from a totally different part of the business. For someone in a finance role, this is the ultimate compass. It's not just about getting the books done on time. It's about a deep, personal commitment to accuracy and integrity. And that, right there, is the power of an obsession. So, how do you know when you've nailed it? How do you know when you're done? Well, there's a really simple test for that. It all comes down to creating a true sense of ownership in every single role. This right here is your litmus test. Just read the obsessions you've written for a role and ask yourself this one question. If the person in this role kept these obsessions front and center every day, would they act like an owner? If the answer is a resounding yes, then you've done it. You've built the architecture for real focus and real ownership. So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Whether you're leading a whole team or just thinking about your own work, what are the 1 to 3 emotional priorities that should be guiding you every single day? Taking the time to define them might just be the most important thing you do all week.